Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, July 21st, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gen. Before we begin, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea broke another daily record Wednesday, coming in at nearly 1,800 new cases. Meanwhile, the vaccination drive continues with over 1.8 million doses of Pfizer's vaccine arriving in the country early today. Vice foreign ministers from South Korea, the U.S. and Japan sat down in Tokyo for talks this morning. Included on the agenda, cooperation on the fight against COVID-19, climate change, and North Korea issues. And Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and his 3 fellow passengers aboarded the Blue Origin spacecraft successfully completed their flight to the edge of the space on Tuesday. We begin with the worsening coronavirus situation here in South Korea. The country broke another daily record on Wednesday, coming in at almost 1,800 new cases. For more, we have our Kim Dami on the line for us. Tommy, give us the details.
Mo-gen, South Korea added 1,784 new cases this morning. That's the highest number since the pandemic broke out, following the previous record of more than 1,600 a week ago. Now, the country is well into a 4th wave of the pandemic as people become more active during the summer vacation season, and with the fast-spreading Delta variant making the situation even worse. But health experts warn the worst is yet to come, with more than 2,000 cases a day expected by the end of this month. Local health authorities say they will wait until the weekend to readjust the current level 4 distancing measures in the greater Seoul area. They're set to end on Sunday, but under the circumstances, alleviating restrictions will be a difficult decision for the government. Now, on a more positive note, over 1.8 million doses of Pfizer's vaccine arrived in the nation early Wednesday, part of the 66 million shots that Seoul secured directly from Pfizer. Also, starting 8 p.m. Wednesday, people aged between 50 and 54 can book their vaccine shots online for the next 4 days. Those aged between 55 and 59 who haven't reserved their jabs can also do so until Saturday. That's all I have. Back to you again.
Thank you for the updates, Tommy. Now, 2 military planes carrying hundreds of service members of a COVID-19 stricken South Korean destroyer landed in the country on Tuesday evening. Most of the crew members tested positive, and the number of infections could rise even further. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
2 aerial tankers carrying Cheonghae unit crew members that departed from an undisclosed location in Africa arrived in Seoul Airport in Seongnam Tuesday evening. Their arrival comes less than a week since confirmation of the unit's first COVID-19 patient. Depending on the severity of their symptoms, the crew members were sent to 2 military hospitals and 2 treatment facilities, one military, the other civilian, that are reserved for COVID-19 patients. The crew members are being tested for the coronavirus again, and those that have tested negative will be transferred to a military facility for quarantine. Defense Minister Seo apologized for the mass infection in the Cheonghae unit, cited as the biggest outbreak within a single military unit in South Korea so far, a predicament exacerbated by the fact that none of them had been vaccinated.
The South Korean military has been striving to vaccinate all military personnel, including those deployed overseas, but efforts fell short when administering the vaccines to service members of the Cheonghae unit, which departed in February. The military will seek measures to ensure the safety of all service members, including those deployed overseas, so that they can carry on with their operations safely.
A lot of explanations were offered by Seoul's defense ministry for not being able to administer the vaccines to the crew members, that it couldn't simply send the vaccines to the operating site in Africa, citing logistics. Also, unlike other deployed troops overseas, the Cheonghae unit is not affiliated with the United Nations, making it harder for the crew members to get vaccinated in the country they're stationed in. Some of the ports the Cheonghae unit do stay in, the ministry said these countries don't administer vaccination to foreign military personnel. It also reiterated that there would be limitations in monitoring any side effects, like anaphylaxis on board the vessel operating overseas. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
The rising number of COVID-19 cases across Europe has led some countries to require proof of vaccination to visit places like restaurants and bars. However, despite having a high number of daily cases, the UK has lifted most of its restrictions. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The Delta variant is spreading through Europe fast, making the continent the first to surpass 50 million cases. Among the worst hit is France.
We're seeing a fourth wave of the virus. Although we're starting with a low contamination rate, the dynamic of the epidemic is very potent. This wave is steeper, it rises faster than previous ones. We must do everything it takes to stop this wave from also being more disruptive.
The authorities are imposing restrictions yet again, but added that with the vaccines, this new threat could be managed better than the past waves, and have imposed a restriction stopping unvaccinated people from going to certain venues. A wide number of venues will require proof of immunization through a health pass. The country has more than 40% of its population vaccinated so far. Greece is also requiring proof of vaccination at places such as restaurants and bars. According to reports, more than 80% of infections on the Greek island of Crete are of the Delta variant. On the other hand, despite having an average of more than 45,000 7-day daily cases, the UK has bucked the trend and lifted most of the restrictions on Monday. The day has been coined Freedom Day.
And there comes a point after so many have been vaccinated when further restrictions no longer prevent hospitalizations and deaths, but simply delay the inevitable. And so we have to ask ourselves the question, if not now, when?
Venues such as nightclubs open for the first time in more than a year, and the mask mandate has been lifted as well. However, many venues that draw large crowds will still require a proof of vaccination for people to enter. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The Delta variant now accounts for 83% of all sequenced COVID-19 cases in the United States. The chief of the country's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention explained Tuesday that this is a significant jump from 50% in early July. Against this backdrop, the White House has confirmed multiple breakthrough COVID-19 cases among its staffers. A White House official and a staff member for the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tested positive after attending the same event last week, despite being fully vaccinated. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the exact number of breakthrough cases at the White House has yet to be confirmed. She said all White House staff have been vaccinated and get tested on a regular basis. As more and more people credited for the Tokyo Olympics test positive for COVID-19, the organizing committee says it's not ruling out the possibility of canceling the games at the last minute. Kim Hyo-san has more.
Amid rising concerns over the spread of COVID-19 within the Olympic Village, the head of the organizing committee for the Tokyo Olympics says they have not ruled out a last-minute cancellation of the games. He also explained the committee would keep a close eye on the spread.
At the five-party meeting, which was held the other day, we agreed that based on the coronavirus situation, we will convene five-party talks again. At this point, coronavirus cases may rise or fall, so we will think about what we should do when the situation arises.
The surprise announcement comes as more athletes have tested positive for the virus, while major sponsors have decided to skip the opening ceremony that's slated for Friday. While the organizing committee has vowed to ensure the safety of athletes, concerns are mounting as there have been at least 67 COVID-19 cases linked to the games since early this month. Health experts have also raised the possibility that the isolation bubble system set up by the Olympic organizers may have already broken, hinting that the number of infections could escalate going forward. Against such a backdrop, COVID-19 is spreading at an alarming pace across Japan. Tokyo's tally alone stood at over 1,300 new cases on Tuesday, up 660 from the day before, while over 3,700 cases were reported nationwide. Kim Hyo-san, Arirang News.
Vice foreign ministers from South Korea and the U.S. and Japan are meeting in Tokyo this morning for talks on trilateral cooperation. The agenda includes cooperation on the fight against COVID-19, climate change, and North Korea issues. The high-level talks are first of their kind in 4 years. This comes as Seoul-Tokyo relations hit a low point following recent controversial remarks about President Moon Jae-in by a senior Japanese diplomat. Following today's three-way meeting, Seoul's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Jong-gun will host his U.S. counterpart Wendy Sherman for talks in Seoul on Friday. South Korea's producer prices edged up for the 8th consecutive month in June, mainly due to the higher prices of industrial goods. The Bank of Korea said Wednesday that its producer price index, a key barometer of future consumer inflation, stood at around 109 last month, up 0.4% from May. Compared to the same month last year, the figure was up 6.4%, rising for 7 straight months. Industrial goods prices went up 0.6% as global oil and raw material prices rose. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and 3 passengers have reached the edge of space and returned safely to Earth. Upon his arrival, Bezos said he hopes the flight marks the start of an expansive new era for human space travel. Lee Kun-hee reports.
Another billionaire, another successful space trip. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and his 3 fellow passengers aboard the Blue Origin completed their successful flight to the edge of space on Tuesday. The flight, which lasted just over 10 minutes, allowed the crew a few minutes of weightlessness on the rocket-fueled New Shepard spacecraft developed by Bezos' company, Blue Origin. Upon return to Earth, Bezos could not contain his excitement.
You know, now, on to how it felt. Oh my God! My expectations were high and they were dramatically exceeded.
Bezos was joined on the spacecraft by Wally Funk, an 82-year-old female aviation pioneer, Oliver Damon, an 18-year-old student from the Netherlands, and Mark Bezos, the billionaire's brother. According to Jeff Bezos, several records were made for Blue Origin.
If you haven't figured it out yet, Wally might be the oldest person ever in space, and Oliver the youngest person ever in space. My brother is the funniest person ever in space, for sure.
Bezos says he hopes the trip is just the start of a new era for human space travel. At a post-flight press conference, Bezos said the venture had reinforced his commitment to tackling the climate crisis, using the New Shepard as a stepping stone toward colonizing space for the benefit of Earth. Blue Origin's trip is the first of 3 scheduled for this year, as the firm also plans to run regular space tours and flights for commercial passengers in the near future. Lee Kun-hee, Arirang News.
Israeli company NSO Group's signature spyware Pegasus has reportedly gotten its hands on the phone numbers of 14 global high-ranking officials, including French President Emmanuel Macron and Iraq's President Barham Salih. The Washington Post reported Tuesday that NSO created a list of some 50,000 phone numbers of people believed to be of interest to clients of the company and leaked them to target rights activists, journalists, and more. Invented around 10 years ago to track down terrorists and felons, the spyware is used by government bodies and law enforcement agencies in 40 countries. It was not clear where the list came from. NSO Group denies any wrongdoing. Record amounts of torrential rain have flooded parts of central China. More than 20 centimeters of downpours fell in just 1 hour on Tuesday in the city of Zhengzhuo, Henan Province. A local news agency reported that flooding in the city has killed at least a dozen people. Streets were turned into rivers and subway stations flooded, forcing more than 100,000 people in Henan Province to evacuate to higher ground. The estate of the late billionaire chairman of Samsung Group, Lee Kun-hee, donated an unprecedented number of artworks to 2 local museums. These pieces are finally on display to the public at the National Museum of Korea and the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. Ahead of Wednesday's grand opening, our culture correspondent Kim Bo-kyung was lucky enough to take a sneak peek and files us this report.
Finally, the masterpieces are unveiled. 2 national museums have been given a total of more than 21,000 works from the late Samsung Group chairman Lee Kun-hee's massive art collection, and they will start displaying those works to the public on Wednesday.
Under the title A Great Cultural Legacy, Masterpieces from the Bequest of the late Samsung chairman Lee Kun-hee, the National Museum of Korea is holding a 2-month exhibition presenting Lee's valuable art and antiques to the public.
Art and antiques spanning from the prehistoric era to the early 20th century show a glimpse into the remarkable diversity of the collection.
Lee's collection is extensive, covering all periods and genres. Earthenware from prehistoric times, gilt bronze statues from the Three Kingdoms period, Goryeo Dynasty transcriptions of Buddhist scriptures, and Joseon-era paintings.
2 Goryeo-era Buddhist paintings are so old that infrared and X-ray photography has been used so that visitors can see the details. Other highlights include the ink and wash painting Clearing After Rain on Mount Inwang by Joseon-era court painter Jeongseon, and The Sound of Autumn drawn by another celebrated court painter Kim Hong-do. Under the title Lee Kun-hee Collection Masterpieces of Korean Art, the MMCA's Hall 2 kicks off its exhibition on July 21st, 58 pieces by 34 artists. The unique works by artists who served as the backbone of Korean modern art, such as Kim Hwang-gi's Woman and Jars and Lee Jung-seop's Bull, will catch visitors' eyes.
The donated art renews the donation culture and is a chance to rewrite the history of Korean modern and contemporary art. The MMCA will further study and research to share the results with art lovers.
The National Museum of Korea will run its exhibition until September 26th, while the MMCA's exhibition will go until March 13th next year. Both need to be booked in advance through the official website, and tickets are selling fast. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Welcome. It's time for The World Now, bringing you some of the most interesting news from around the globe. I'm Ji-young. There's a special bus in Brazil bringing vaccines to people. It may be similar to a regular bus on the outside, but on the inside, it's the Vaccination Bus, bringing increased immunization to the municipalities. The mobile vaccination center is providing jabs throughout Minas Gerais for a total of 45 days.
Today I got my last jab. I was really happy. The bus got here and they are treating everyone.
Recently, the Red Cross, which jointly initiated the bus with the government, reached a goal of vaccinating 10,000 people through the Vaccination Bus. There's another way to encounter exotic animals and experience the majestic landscapes of Africa without actually going there. Groundbreaking technology has brought a wild safari adventure to Atlanta at an eye-popping immersive attraction. This is Illuminarium, where a room displays a massive projection onto towering walls with real moving images from African plains. The CEO of the company says the exhibition aims to do things people dream about.
So the amazing thing about an Illuminarium is the technology and how we use it. So when you walk in to our safari, you see it with your own eyes, just like you'd see it if you were there.
It's already drawing massive crowds, and the exhibit is considering expanding to other locations. The next exhibition is to open in Las Vegas in December. Meet the newborn baby tapir. Audubon Zoo in New Orleans welcomed an endangered Baird's tapir calf earlier this month. The zoo's 3-year-old Baird's tapir gave birth to her first offspring through a successful breeding program. The animals are mostly found in parts of Mexico through Colombia, but due to deforestation and hunting pressures, there are fewer than 5,500 Baird's tapirs remaining in the wild.
Good morning. It's only about 20 past 10 here in Korea, but we can already feel and see the sizzling summer heat beating down, and those of us in the west of the country will need to brace for a blistering day today. The Korean peninsula will be trapped under a heat dome, and due to the foreign effect, hotter and drier winds will blow into the west, with heat wave warnings in place across most of that region. So Seoul, Daejeon, Chuncheon will be heating up to steamy 36 degrees Celsius this afternoon, but Daegu and Busan will have relatively lower highs at 33 degrees and 31 degrees this afternoon. Well, there will be nothing but sizzling sunshine today, so sunblock and a hat is a must if venturing outside. A UV blocking umbrella is best, but failing that, a regular dark umbrella should be just fine. We could be baking under this season's record-smashing heat for the rest of the week, which could cause problems for livestock and crops as well. So some very tough summer days are ahead for all of us. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Early in the morning, when I exercise, this moment in this place is so precious to me. I've never forgotten my dream to become a Taekwondo master here in Korea.